Today we're going to talk about how to tie the gravity boot onto your partner. The gravity boot has the unique property of allowing the force to come straight out the bottom of your partner's foot in line with the leg instead of coming off the side, as would be the case if we put a regular double column around the ankle. This makes it very useful for suspensions if you want to do a full inverted suspension, or if you're tying your partner's spread eagle to a bed or something like that, you can use this as the single column for the ankles, which allows you to tie them much more tightly flat to the bed. Now, this is relatively straightforward to tie, and there are some variations on it. One variation is the gravity boot single column, and I have a separate tutorial on that. But the primary difference is quite simple, and I'll point that out in a moment. So the first thing we're going to do is take a long rope and make a lark's head. Now I'm going to place this lark's head around my partner's toes, but I'm going to put the bite side, this is the bite side of the lark's head, and this is the tail side of the lark's head. I'm going to put the bite side on the bottom of my partner's foot, and I'm going to put the bite on the outside of the toe like that. But what this does is it lets me work very smoothly and easily and have enough rope left off at the end to tie it off. Now, all we're going to do is run this across the top of our partner's foot and around the back of their ankle. One thing to point out is we don't want this rope snugged tightly up against the heel like this so that it pushes against that Achilles tendon. Have a little space between the heel and your rope. Now bring the tail up across the top of your partner's foot like this. Then run the tail under your partner's foot across the arch. Now bring the tail across itself, creating the beginnings of a weave pattern here. So you want that tail closer to the ankle. And then you're going to go around the ankle again, but a bit further up the leg than you did the first time. As you're running this line, make sure that you keep the tension against the skin even in these ropes across the ankles. Now we're going to bring it back to the front, and here's the first time we really do a weave. And remember, to do a weave, we take our tail and we run it over top of the ones that are on top and underneath the ones that are underneath. So sometimes the way I say that is you go over the overs and under the unders. So this one's on top, that one's on bottom. I'm going to put my finger underneath the one that's on the bottom, hook, and then I'm going to hook that tail and pull it through. Now, one thing you'll find as you're doing these kinds of pulls is that if you have your tail on the outside as opposed to the inside, it's far easier to pull through because you have much more play in the ropes here as you're pulling. Once you have that weave, then run the rope under your partner's arch again, like that, and then back to the top of the foot. Now here again, we need to be weaving it. This weaving is the primary difference between this version of the gravity boot and the gravity boot single column. This weaving allows the rope to lie flatter and smoother across the top of the foot. So if you put a great deal of tension on this, you're less likely to develop unplanned pressure points that irritate the top of the foot. So again, we're bringing it back. We go under the unders and over the overs. So I'm going to run my finger underneath this one that's on the bottom, hook the tail, and pull it through. Like that. Bring it back around the ankle again a little further up the leg. Now we bring it to the top. We're going to weave it in here again. These two are higher and the middle one is lower. So I'm going to put my finger underneath that one and then hook that tail and get it underneath that band and then pull it through. Like that. And I might need to take a moment and sort of organize these weaves as I go so they're nice and tight and clean. Again, tail under the arch of the foot and back to the top. And same thing over here. These two are higher. That one, the one in the middle, is lower. So put your finger underneath the one in the middle. Hook the tail and pull the tail through. Adjust your weave, tightening it, making sure the tension and the ropes across the bottom of the foot and around the ankle is the same. Now we're going to go around the ankle one last time and come back here to the front. Now here's the first and only time you're going to have to do 2 tail pulls to get through the weave here. And depending on how tight it is, you may be able to do both of those tail pulls at once, but you do want this to be relatively snug. So I'm going to do one at a time. So finger under the first one that has to go under, run it through. Now you can do the second one now, just like this. So now I individually ran it under each strand, but I'm going to do the pull just once. Like that. Now, as we've been doing this, some of this may have worked a little loose. So I'm just going to put my rope across the bottom of the foot and sort of hold that in place. And I'm going to work this knot. I'm going to work this weave a little bit to get things even. This upper band here may have moved quite a bit, but that's okay because we can tighten it by just pulling on that and adjusting the tightness there so that all the cords in the ankle cuff now have an even degree of tightness. Now the weave part of this is done, and we need to lock this off. And I'm going to turn this around so we can see this a little bit better. So this is the tail of the rope. It's lying right across the bottom of the foot here in order with all the rest of these lines. This is the lark's head that we started with. I'm just going to slip that off my partner's toes and then bring it back around so that now I have the bite end and the tail end like this. And this is now just tied off as you would any other single column. So pick whichever one is your favorite. I personally like to use the Somerville bow line for that. So I have my bite end, I have my tail end. I'm going to take my tail and I'm going to make a circle around my bite end like that. And that forms this X. Then I'm going to lay my tail over top of that X. And then I need to run that bite underneath all the cords of the single column and then back up through this loop. And I can do that in 2 steps or 1. If I make the loop bigger, like this, then I can put my finger underneath all of those cords, like that, hook the bite, and pull the bite through, and it sort of naturally comes up through that loop all at the same time. Sometimes that gets things a little disorganized, though, so some people don't like to do it that way. Some people like to do it in 2 steps. It's okay. So now I've reorganized those lines a little bit, and now I'm going to hold that bite in place while I tighten the tail. Like that. So now you can see I have a very firm grip on all those cords. That force is being distributed to the top of the foot and then back around the back part of the ankle. Now if I'm going to use this for suspension, this is a personal preference, but I like to go through all of those loops again underneath this after I've run it to my anchor point. So I'll come up, I'll run it to an anchor point like this and back down. And now when I'm back down here, I want to run this line underneath all of these lines before I run it back up. So put your finger underneath it, hook the tail with that finger, pull it through, back up to your anchor point, and then tie it off with whatever friction you like. So there you have the gravity boot. My name's Lazarus Redmayne. This is TheDuchy.com. If you learned a little something, please consider supporting us at TheDuchy.com/join.